So what did you make of this article in Science Magazine and of our whistleblower's testimonial?
Yeah, thank you very much, Megan. And here's the problem. This is actually part of a much bigger problem. So we are all witnessing the Titanic, that is mainstream medicine, going down because it has rammed into the iceberg of chronic illnesses. And I'm talking about Alzheimer's, Lou Gehrig's disease, frontotemporal dementia, Lewy body disease, on and on, CVD, PSP, all these other ones, and including late-stage cancers, including chronic renal failure. We are all in an era in which mainstream medicine is treating things the way we treated them in the 20th century, simple illnesses, viral illnesses, bacterial illnesses, things like that. And so we're ending up with things where the big problem here is really about what Alzheimer's is. And let me just for one moment say, yes, I've known Professor Ash for 40 years. She is a brilliant scientist, a brilliant neurologist, and she's absolutely committed to finding the mechanisms underlying Alzheimer's disease. And the work that she did, you did a beautiful job with Charles Piller and with Dr. Schrag, but didn't mention that this is based on an analogy with Nobel Prize winning work. And this was from Professor Stan Prusner, that identified in the case of prion diseases, this is a different kind of neurodegenerative disease, looks a little like Alzheimer's, typically faster than Alzheimer's disease and much more rare. And he found one form of a protein that is normal and one form that's abnormal. And if you give the abnormal one, the person or the animal gets the disease. So this was an analogy here, which I think is one of the reasons that it was, interesting to people at the beginning. Aha, we have the same story, makes sense. But as you've shown beautifully, this is much more complex. And I should add, you mentioned the green apples. In this case, this is a brew. This stuff interchanges. So you have green apples, red apples, and yellow apples, and they're changing into each other. You have larger apples, smaller apples. You have apples that are sticking to each other, just like heated gummy bears. So you've got this brew, and it's not simple. And they're trying to say, is there one part of this brew that is actually causing the disease? And you mentioned Professor Selkoe, who was really the first many, many years ago to argue that it was assemblies of small numbers of these amyloid molecules that were the critical players. But here's the problem. That doesn't explain the disease. And as Charles mentioned, the problem is that when you remove the amyloid, you don't get better. So we're left with this amazing paradox. For lots of reasons, amyloid looks like a bad actor. There it is, sitting there in the brains of patients with Alzheimer's. There it is when you look and you see this stuff, you now drop it into cell culture, or you mentioned into Professor Ash's mouse brains, and absolutely, you get symptoms. There's no question multiple forms of amyloid are toxic. But the paradox is when you now remove them with antibodies, and Aduhelm was not the first. Bapineuzumab failed, solanezumab failed, crenezumab, gantenerumab, just go right down the list. They have all failed. And so people keep saying, well, it's because of this. Well, it's because of that. Yes, when you put $40 billion into developing these things and trialing them, it's hard to say, this has really failed. But the surprise was that the FDA actually approved this when, in fact, the trial proved just the opposite of what the reason that they approved this. They approved it because they said, well, it removes amyloid, so we expect it to have clinical benefit. No, that's exactly what all of these trials showed is not the case. When you remove the amyloid, it does not give you clinical benefit. So we're left with, we need a better understanding of this disease.
It's so undermining of my own faith in places like the FDA, not to mention movies like Dope Sick. But there are all sorts of reasons to be skeptical of them and whether they're acting in our best interests. Let's not even get started on COVID and the vaccine and so on. I just think people see this sort of this rubber stamping of drugs that really might be hurting the sickest and most suffering amongst us. And we think, forget these guys. We can't trust the FDA, can't trust the NIH. Why are they giving this Dr. Leslie more money after this well-credentialed whistleblower went to them and said, here are all the images this guy appears to have been doctoring, manipulating, editing, to use his boss's word, images in study after study, and they still give him money.
It's a good point. We're right back to cold fusion, aren't we? This is cold fusion in the brain. Does it work? Does it not work? Is this what's going on? And you really can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Once you've given out millions and millions of dollars of grants for what is now a suspect result, are you going to ask for that the grants be returned? What are you going to do? Now, in this case, again, there's some important nuances here. It may turn out, just as Professor Ash has suggested to you, it sounds like today, that this will all turn out to be supportive of her theory and supportive of the work they originally published, even though there are clear red flags about how this was presented. Or it may turn out not to be the case. And so you're right, this is really concerning. And I think it just shows how complicated and how difficult research into human conditions is. And the fact that humans are complicated organisms. And there's a lot going on here, far more than just amyloid. Multiple amyloid species clearly have toxic effects. But the question is that the cause of Alzheimer's? It is likely to be a mediator, but not the upstream cause of what's going wrong in an Alzheimer's brain.
Samantha from Arcadia, California is as excited as I am about Genucel's transformative results. She says, I love Genucel plant stem cell therapy. I've used it all over my face, under my eyes, and it cleared up the dry flakiness, even reducing my forehead lines. Someone even asked if I had work done. Nope, just Genucel, she writes. Thank you. Genucel has sold over 1 million products to women and men across this country. Fine lines, forehead wrinkles, dark spots, sagging jawlines, even those annoying bags and puffiness under your eyes, gone without risky or invasive procedures. And with its immediate effects product, there are guaranteed results in as little as 12 hours or your money back. See the difference for yourself with 65% off their most popular packages at Genucel.com. Right now, their most popular packages, which is all their best products, includes a free month supply of the original Genucel under eye bags and puffiness treatment. Visit Genucel.com/MK. Enter MK at checkout to make sure you get that discount. Order today and get their Summer Essential Dark Spot Corrector absolutely free. Go to Genucel.com/MK60. That's GENUCEL.com/MK60. Genucel.com/MK60. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.